Oh my!
Yeah, so Kingston goes every 2
with me
every
too.
2 weeks.
But Kingston's hair grows like in 2 days. So
literally.
Kingston actually needs it.
What you mean? I do too.
Okay.
Because I'm getting the LeBron is coming.
So then, don't you want to
I
not?
don't know if the LeBron's coming. You're older than. Are you older than LeBron?
By a year.
By a year. Yeah, you ain't got the LeBron's not coming yet.
Sometimes I feel it.
If you look at some old pictures, and you're like,
I mean, it's receding, but it's not
yeah,
the LeBron.
you have to look at old pictures to see. But yeah,
It's pushing back a
I
little
feel
bit.
like this. If you see like how on my dad's side of the family, how their hair is, I'm hanging on this.
It must have been them
Yeah,
braids.
Evans is already gone.
The braids was doing it, and then when they were grown, it was growing out more when I had the braids in.
Oh,
He had already started receding before.
Way before that.
It's hard out here.
It is, man.
Let me fact check you. You already was
That 30 piece hit. Them 30 years, you hit 30.
At least you made it to 30.
Cool. Welcome back to Kevin and Tenisha Mix It Up. We're here today with two very good friends and definitely excited to jump into what we got for you this week. Today has been a very interesting day, I think, all around for everybody as we've been chatting. So I think we'll start there. But before we start there, with us today, we have Devin and Shanwtell.
Yo.
And
I got y'all's song in my head. Man, I'll let y'all. Right, that's how I was feeling when you was saying it. I was like, yo, hey.
yeah, we know what's going to be there. So Devin and Shanwtell with us today. We are definitely going to be chatting about their life experience and their marriage and parenting and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Good stuff.
So before we dive all the way in, if you want to head over to Instagram, head over to, or obviously if you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button, click the alerts so you know what's coming, when it's coming on the YouTube channel. But head over to Instagram, follow Kevin and Tenisha, follow Kevin100, Tenisha.Rigby, follow our guest, Trek Manifest, Shawni Marie. I don't know how to spell that, but we'll put it in the episode notes.
Yes.
So you can just definitely click those links. The most interesting story that I'd like to start this off with today was there was most of the time when our family goes places, I am in attendance. And we've never had to, I guess, worry about this before. But today I was at work and Tenisha and her children decided to go to the outlet malls. When they're with her and not me, they're just her children. Because I don't know how they act when the three of them are together. I don't know what that means, but so they were at Tanger Outlet Malls up in Nowheresville. So what happened up there today?
Oh my gosh! So today I was like, all right, he's gone, and things need to happen. So things
need to happen because my son had no pants.
Yeah, he had no pants on Friday, and we're like, it's cold.
He tried on every pair of pants from last
and they're all
school.
too small.
Oh my god,
that's insane.
I don't understand.
He was like, Mom, I can't even zip them. I'm like, what? I bought them the end of the season. So I'm like, all right, Kevin's at work. He's in Dayton. I'm just gonna go. So I go, use my GPS. Ava acknowledges. Oh, I forgot to tell you.
Which is hilarious.
Ava acknowledges to me, Mommy, you use a GPS everywhere you go.
Girl, you ain't got no sense of direction.
I have no sense of direction. And I'm like, well, I just because I just want us to get there safely. That's all. And then in my head, I'm like, okay.
Because I'm a woman.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Anyways, I park the car. We get out. We're there about an hour and a half. I get the kids pretzels. I get their clothes, whatever. We're walking back, and I'm like, where did I park? So I'm like, Gavin, where did I park? And Gavin's like, I think you parked back there in the back. And I'm like, okay. So I walk back there, and I'm like, my car is not back there. So then I'm walking, and Ava's behind me talking about, I'm hungry, my feet hurt. And Gavin's like, Mom, I don't think you know where the car is. And I'm like, no, I do. It's right. It's back here. And he's like, no, Mom, it's not. So I'm walking. Long story short, we walked for 45 minutes trying to find my car.
The parking lot ain't even that big.
Like, we had to take breaks because we were hot and Ava's feet were tired. I ended up finding a security guard, and he's like, well, where's the first place you went? And I'm like, to the bathroom. And he's like, after the bathroom, where'd you go? And I'm like, to the Adidas store. And he's like, well, then you're probably over here. So he walks over, and he finds my car.
You have to ask the security guard who doesn't know what your car looks like to find your car.
Gavin's like, thank you so much for finding our car.
Well, the biggest thing that our topic today is really just like our last couple of guests, and today we are focused on Devin and Shanwtell and their experience together. We started this podcast to have conversations with each other and have conversations with others in hopes to just share with whoever's listening that they may receive something and that they may take a mental note and look into other people's lives that are willing to just kind of open up and be honest about what's going on and get something from it. I think as we talked about at the beginning of this season, we a lot of times see a glimpse into people's lives. We see what they want us to see on social media. And if you follow Devin on social media, that's not the case. You see everything.
Everything. And that is so intentional, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's an interesting thing that we'll definitely talk about today is that's not the case with me. I'm showing the highlights. Like my social media is a highlight reel. And that's not intentional. It's just when I decide to do it. But from what I know about, Devin, a little more in depth of an intro is we met when I was in high school. I knew him when I was in high school.
I think they know Devin from the first season. We talked. Now they're just getting.
We talked about me.
Yeah,
we talked about me.
Now it's like a full circle.
Yeah, so now they have the honor of meeting him.
For sure.
And meeting his wife. Yes.
And so. With Youth to Youth, I, met Devin, was a kid in the program. He was a senior. A little bit later, he started working there, and I was a kid, and he was like a mentor to all of us young students from Columbus. And from there, we worked together for a handful of years. We started a business.
We started a company. We started an LLC together.
Right.
Let's call it what it is.
So it was like one of our first endeavors of like, saying this is who we are. Like this is our thing, and kind of owning, like having ownership over something here. So not only were we coworkers and friends and business partners and all of that, and that's how I knew Devin. And subsequently, Shanwtell was the same situation. I just, they were just always a thing.
Did you guys meet in Youth to Youth?
No.
Sorta.
No.
Like, yes,
Daily.
Daily.
Yeah, so he hit me up.
I met her online.
On Black Planet?
Black
Black Planet?
Clickety clacking, all that, but then it led into us having mutual friends. One of our mutual friends was a friend of ours, Daily. I was in Youth to Youth, and I was at a speaking engagement at their school, and I pointed her, and she was pointed out to me. So
Daily went to Hannah Lincoln with you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
So then for me,
2004, never forget.
Yeah. So then for me, it was kind of like, oh, okay, who's that? Blah, blah, blah. And then, high school, you just doing whatever, but it was still like, oh, who's that? Okay, cool. So
I was really mean to Devin, though.
very.
You were?
Very mean. Like,
yeah. Like, he used to call me, and I would, like, put him on hold and then never come back to the phone.
God.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
What?
You are. Not only did you just say you were a class of 2004, but you just said put him on hold.
Like on the phone.
Like
a touch tone phone, ladies and
The house phone had a hold button on it. And that was like the next level house phone. Like if you had a house phone
that
with
could
the
put
hold
on hold,
button.
that means you have three-way.
Oh, man.
Yeah, three-way. Fax machine. All that stuff.
Oh, shoot.
Put me on hold and all that stuff. But it was
Or like he would come to like, I would still invite him if we like had stuff going on at the house, and Devin would like sit in this chair and not move the whole time. I'd be like, "You all right?" Mm-hmm.
Well,
what did you do before you could have a phone? Like to occupy your. Did you have a book, or you were just like writing
her mom
lyrics?
gave me the remote, so I was clicking and eating. But at that time, because she was a lot more social than I was, so a lot of her friends are just ain't hosting. So it's like I'm not about to be all up in her face. Hey, all right, cool. What we doing? Oh,
They're like, "Who's that guy sitting in the chair in the house?" I'm like,
chill.
Devin.
I'm chilling. I'm eating stuff in my face, and then when it's time to go, all right. See y'all when I see y'all. And then,
I didn't know that. I thought you guys met at Youth to Youth the entire time.
Because I didn't start Youth to Youth until my senior year.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's wild. Well, shout out to Black Planet.
Right. Shout out to Hold Three-Way.
That's right.
Three-way
and I had
calling.
2 pages too.
Caller ID.
Listen,
I had
2 pages. You had a
fin-
Finsta before a Finsta was a thing.
I forgot my password. So then
Oh,
I
yeah.
just made another one.
listen. Let me tell you my Black Planet story.
You had a Black Planet?
Let me tell you my Black
Stop
Planet story.
it. You did not.
There isn't one.
Oh.
And I felt so left out.
One area where you couldn't be a part.
I thought my thing was 614_candy with an I.
Hey.
Like, that is terrible.
That's your rap
It was
name.
obviously Trek Manifest, but then my other one when I lost, I forgot.
It was
the Trek
like
Manifest
Wally or
one.
something.
That was my second one, Wally West, because I was the Flash back then.
Wah, wah.
Yes. I know. I was in rapper mode at that point, and I was always trying to think of like, oh, we'll be the
like, I
hardest.
need to
Like
feel
I'm the
him.
Flash and this and that. Totally corny. I totally accept that activity.
Yeah, that was hilarious. We talked about this last episode, but there were so many moments of like my childhood because I was the minority of my friend group.
You were left out.
That it was like, but I didn't. I'm so glad that I had the wherewithal, not because anybody told me to, that I can sit here and say I didn't have a Black Planet and that I didn't use the N-word and that all of those things. Like, I'm so
No one
glad.
can dig that up on Kevin.
Yeah, I can look back on my life, right? And there are no receipts.
None.
But I did have a MySpace, and when everybody did have their Black Planet, I did have a Yahoo, and my username was Young Lee.
Oh,
614.
Oh, God.
Young Lee 614. I tried to sign into that not too long ago, but it's gone.
It's too funny.
That's hilarious.
Young Lee
Oh, gosh. I would hate to. I actually tried.
on blood.
There was like a Twitter thread of like people were going back through their Black Planet pages. I did try to get into mine, but I couldn't remember the password. But I just know
That is
it
hilarious.
was terrible. I remember having these rules like do's and don'ts of my page. speech.
Oh yeah, those did used to be a thing.
Real, yeah.
and don'ts.
Oh, I didn't have one, but I definitely looked at a lot of people's Black Planets. I was creeping. I knew what was going on.
I never.
First experience with HTML coding. Like, we used to be in there like...
Want your whole, like, setup and your whole background.
Yeah,
all that.
changing your
That's
background,
huge.
getting
Huge.
scrolling stuff
Big time.
and little graphics. And
Here,
No,
right.
Oh yeah, that MySpace. I can't relate, but MySpace.
MySpace, you could do
Yeah,
that
you
too.
definitely do that with MySpace.
Hey, that went hard. My first rap ever was on MySpace.
Oh,
And I got
can we find that?
oh nah, that's gone. MySpace went away.
Did it? How did I know that? Oh, poor Tom.
And then they came back, but then all the old stuff was gone. So yeah, luckily you can't find that Young Lee rap.
Young Lee.
God.
Wow.
I never knew.
Unfortunately, I did pick that up.
So y'all met on Black Planet but you guys had a mutual friend, Daily, and
Yes.
then you guys started dating.
We both had.
Or did you
I
guys
had a
both
girlfriend,
have
she had a
others?
boyfriend, but we were just
Y'all.
cool. We were just cool. We were just
For years.
For years.
Wow.
He was friend zoned
Oh,
heavily, so
Yeah.
because you had a man.
yeah.
And
But
you had-
it was part of it was that, and part of it was just like, hey, Devin.
So when did you start feeling him like, I think this could be more?
He's a friend type of guy though.
You ain't.
Nah, I mean he's just like a
funny way. But honestly, I feel like I've always been that kind of person with people. So
Like they've just always sectioned you to the friend zone?
no, like he's just been a fun
I
like
just section myself into it because this is how I act. Like
Yeah,
just
just silly,
I
yeah.
am, and just
Yeah, the silly,
happy
goofy,
go lucky,
Yeah.
kind of corny
Yeah.
joke guy. Like
Yeah.
these knee slappers.
totally. Like so.
how weird.
So like I get it. Like
He's awful.
every time. Wait. Either way.
Okay.
I understood it. So I
It
never
made
tripped.
sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
I never tripped on it at all. Because honestly, I didn't. It was one of those things like, oh, she cute, blah, blah, blah. But then it wasn't the way I was being treated. It was just like, all right, well, we'll just,
Yeah.
that's the homie. Cool. We'll see what happens here and there. And then, yeah. I want to say, because I'm 2 years older than her. So I graduated in 02. She graduated in 04.
Okay.
I want to say probably about your senior year. That's when stuff started kind of like, oh, okay. Like,
I finally went to the movies with you.
yeah. It's all
I remember
Cabin
going to Shanwtell's graduation party. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I pulled up.
And Devin was there and I was like, he's a little bit older than her.
I had a Geo Prism at that time.
Wow.
No, you didn't have that yet.
Yes, I did.
Oh.
I had the Geo Prism.
Okay.
And I'm 2 years younger than you, so I listen.
Was way confused. Like,
Nah, listen, I was in there like, hey,
class of 04.
I got invited to this grad party. I'm somebody, boy. Let me go shoot my shot.
Swish.
With who?
Yeah, right.
Right, please.
Yeah, we were all in love with somebody from Gahanna
No.
in high school.
Yeah.
There was always
Never lie.
one of them.
One of them.
That was the crew of light skins. They
I'm
all
not light skin.
You weren't one of those, but
Yeah.
you was definitely a crew.
So I'm brown.
But yeah, yeah, by her
That's what
senior
Tenisha
year,
be saying.
We're brown.
I don't
I'm
partake
black.
in
We just gonna
colorism.
call it
Oh, there
that.
we go. Yes. I'm going with that one.
There's tears of it, but yeah, I'm dark.
No.
But yeah, I'm just trying to get all those jokes out of the way because I get clowned on that. Yeah,
Listen, I wasn't gonna make any black jokes during this podcast.
Ever.
I'm not.
Ever.
That won't be a
Bet
thing.
not.
no, never.
That won't be a thing in 2020.
But yeah,
Not from this guy.
her senior year, we went to homecoming. I went to her homecoming.
Okay.
And it was your birthday.
Yeah, it was my birthday. So it was like birthday, her homecoming, and then bam, like that was
That's
October
been 17 years, bro.
So yeah,
That's a
October
long
That's a
the
long time.
6th 2003.
Girl.
That's when it was
My
like
whole life.
Listen, you ain't telling nobody nothing they don't know.
And I think out of everybody that maybe we know, I think you guys have the closest like story to ours in terms of relationship. Like y'all been together forever just like we have, and you know, like you just said, like you haven't experienced much else. And that's a very interesting dynamic to have, I think, in a marriage. Like, I think we watch that on TV as kids. Like, we see that, but you don't realize what that means for a marriage. And then especially knowing, like, you knew somebody from when they were a kid and when they acted like a kid, you know, to now they're an adult and they act like a kid or they act like an adult or whatever, right? Like, you've known this person for so long. That's so different than meeting your soulmate at 27 or 30 or, you know what I'm saying? Or even 21.
Yeah,
it's
not
so
like
different.
like you're not.
You're growing up
together.
together.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't meet somebody when they figured some of life out,
right?
Or you're doing it all together. And that's our entire experience, is figuring out how to be not only parents, not only spouses, but how to be adults, how to be like contributing members of society, how to not be childish, how to all of those things. Well, she was never childish. She's always been an adult, but she was.
As far as I recall, yeah,
she's always been mature. She's been an adult since she was 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is crazy, and really one of the places that we wanted to go ever since I've known Devin. Though I always looked up to Devin, and then Devin's always been one of my best friends. A personality trait of Devin is that he unapologetically loves Devin, right?
Yep.
And
you got it.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
And you mentioned y'all met or homecoming was on his birthday. He doesn't call his birthday his birthday. He calls it
What do you call it?
D-Day.
D-Day.
It's
call
not
it D-Day?
It's not B-Day. It's not his B-Day. It's D-Day.
D-Day.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so I think the term
To this day, you still call it D-Day?
it's coming up. It's coming up here.
It is.
A few weeks away.
Are you one of those ones that do it all month long or all week long?
It's just one day,
Just
D-Day.
But our anniversary is a week before my birthday, so now it's kind of
okay.
I balance it out. I put more energy into that than I do my birthday now.
Aww,
So
Good answer.
but yes, he is right. It
and you don't ignore D-Day because
no, I don't ignore D-Day. I like birthdays and celebrating
too.
birthdays. So
me too.
And I think that goes into some of what, and I'm gonna go ahead and speak for you. Some of what makes you guys work is that though you may have, this is a negative term, but I'm just going to use it because I'm not very literate and I don't have a lot of other terms, but we're going to use the word selfish, not in a negative aspect, but in a negative aspect, you're, so you're selfish in a way that, you know, I'm speaking before your marriage, maybe before your kids, is that, you know, this is about me. I'm going to do the things that I love. Everything is about me. And maybe we could talk a little bit about maybe where that comes from. But on the flip side, I think you are about others. So it's easy to make those things, those things work. But we'll get there, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Where do you think the D-Days and the unapologetically love for self comes from?
That's crazy that's even thought about. Cause for me, like I am in therapy. I take, you know what I'm saying? I'm a huge proponent of like investing in your mental health or whatever. But I talk to my therapist about that stuff, and And a lot of it comes from how I was raised. Like, I was born and raised in a blended family. So out of 5 kids, I'm like smack dab in the middle. On top of that, I have a whole other set of siblings on a whole, you know what I'm saying, from my biological father. So that's 5, right?
6.
Including me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's being in that blended family, you're like pulling for some type of attention, some type of affirmation. Now, back then, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that, yeah.
I just knew, okay, I'm talented at these things. I'm able to rap. I'm able to dance. I'm doing do X, Y, and Z. And it wasn't always like a necessarily look at me, but it was fact like, dag, I'm good at this, and people are looking at me. Or wow, like he can do that, and look at me. So it was always, you know, trying to find that affirmation from others, trying to find that, you know, like love from others. And then even within that, I mean, whatever, it's not a bad word. Even within that selfishness, I still wanted to bring people along with me.
Yeah.
So then the friends that did that attracted to that, you know what I'm saying, like the Kevins and the Burns, whatever. Then it was like, oh, these are my peoples. Bet. Now, not only you go, oh, it's me. You gonna see we too, because it's like those are my peoples. Like, so I think a lot of it ultimately roots from like, and I don't use it as like back then it would have been an excuse, but now that I'm older and I look back in hindsight, it was just it had a mix of me being in a blended family, and then it, you know, people always use that whole middle child thing and what like that, and sometimes I would use that as like a whole thing, like, oh, you know, I'm the middle child, so we don't really get this and we don't really get that. And then I get older and I have a wife and kids, and it's more like, oh, your mom was actually proud of you. Your dad was actually proud of you actually doing the stuff that you're doing. So now it's just like, dang, I was really like on this whole like, hey, you know, when in essence it was just like, son, we love you for who you are. We love you for what you are already doing. Like, keep doing that. And so, I mean, I don't know. It's just funny because now I can laugh looking back on those moments. Like, damn.
And I think a lot of it, I mean, like, I don't know that I've ever been like, Devin's so selfish, right? But it's always been like, Devin is gonna do Devin. He's gonna do what he loves. He's gonna, like, no, I'm not gonna be able to tell him to go a different way than the way that he wants to go. And I'm not gonna be able to say like, yeah, let's, you know, this song ain't it. Like, if he loves it, it is, you know, like, and
that comes, not to cut you off, that also comes from, you know, if we even dig a little deeper, just real briefly, like being within that blended family, it's 3 sisters and then a brother. Me and my brother are the same age. I'm older by a month and 3 weeks. So, and we do the same things. So then it's also another like tug of like, yo,
create your own
you know
identity.
what I'm saying? Trying to create my own thing. And then hearing growing up, people telling you, no. But then like in your mind, you know you're different. But then it's just like, but if you are too different, then it's like, whatever. So you're still trying to prove yourself on that type of end. So again, this is stuff that now that I'm older, I'm able to think about it a lot more and look back.
Well, and it's that you're in a space where it's being presented to you in a different aspect. Sometimes we don't have words for feelings, thoughts, or emotions.
Exactly.
I'm a firm believer of middle child syndrome, especially when it comes to a component of a blended family, because that's 2 separate lives that have been sustaining themselves now coming together. And I'm sure at some point you probably were the anchor for your mom.
Totally.
So, you know, then your role changes, you know? So I believe in middle child syndrome, and I believe in the roles change as you develop and as the family matures in their stages of change. So,
you know, and I never knew that growing up.
Right.
It was
right.
Like,
yeah.
And there's a lot of strong personalities in your family.
Tons.
And that's what is interesting to see, like him with his family and then Devin outside of his family, because it kind of is 2 different people. He gets way quiet, like little bit more passive. Some of those
with
things.
the family.
Yeah. Because I think because it's so many strong personalities. So like if they are to see him operate somewhere else, I think it's always kind of a surprise for them where they're
total shock.
Oh. So he is like, which we've been talking a lot about, like him being an introvert versus because I'm so much extrovert.
Do you feel like you're still an introvert?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
He's an introvert,
in many ways.
And more so omnivert, like he can flow back and forth, but it just depends.
Yeah, where you can flow.
You can kind of be. I can.
He's an omnivert, yeah. For
But and a lot of that comes from when I, how I met Kevin and stuff, being at UT, like they forced you to get out of your zone.
Mm-hmm.
Devin and Devin with his family are like two totally different people.
See, I'm complete opposite.
It's crazy.
And do you think, like to what she was saying, the role that you may have played to, I don't know how you said it, but like to take care of your mom in the situation.
Oh, the anchor before the blended family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So within that, do you think that you got more from her because of?
I don't know, because I feel like she didn't necessarily spoil me as much, but it was, you knew if I was around, like, oh, that's my son, like, that's my boy, like, very
Mama's
like,
boy.
yeah.
I
didn't want to fully say
No,
it,
your mom,
it's what it is. I always that, and I relished on that. Like, I championed that.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Even with my boys, I'm like, that's fine. I mean, my boy, that's cool.
Yeah. And I think I just want to point that out too, because I think those are all things that, in many different situations, obviously in marriages, it looks different. Like me being an only child, some of the same things apply coming into a marriage and always having my way and getting everything that I wanted, everything that I blah, blah, blah. But now you have that, you have all of those things, and now you're bringing those in with whole other lives, a whole other people.
Yeah.
So how does that transition look? And for both of you, like you to be dating this guy who...
Because you're the only child.
Yeah, so I basically grew up as an only child. I'm my mother's only child, and then I have a brother and sister. So my dad adopted them. So I was 7 once my brother got here, and then my sister, I was 10, 9 or 10.
Okay.
But for all intents and purposes, I grew up as an only child because I was only there like on the weekends every so often and all that. So yes, very different to now be around a family of 5 kids and a mom and dad and everyone's married. So I'm like, this is different.
And it's constantly loud.
Was that attractive for you? Like,
it definitely was. So like I always wanted siblings in the house and like that type of thing. My mom had remarried at one point, and I had stepbrothers, but one was like already older, had his own family, and my stepbrother lived with us like all of like 2 or 3 months, but I thought that was like the best thing ever. But yes, it was definitely like, come on, big family.
Yes, okay.
That was a complete. That was me. I'm like, man, I've been in this house with all.
I'm trying to get out this.
I'm chill.
You just don't know. Yeah, I'm with you, Devin.
yeah.
Oh man.
Still why you don't want to share anything.
Yeah, and that is very interesting, because that's how I felt. Is like I would go over to her house and she has 3 younger siblings, and then I start building a relationship with them, and now I feel like I got these like younger siblings, and they look at me and they hang out with me and are happy to see me, and I started to not only have love for her, but have love for like the situation.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And so how does like that begin to shift? How does that that me center, that focus on me, start to translate or start to work its way out or in to your relationship, marriage, parenting, all of that.
So how I came from being selfish to selfless, basically.
Are you selfless?
Like that's
that's what I'm hearing. Like,
I'm trying to figure out.
Is that I think there's I think there's more before we get to the place of are you selfless?
Like that, because I mean how I hear and how I'm hearing the question is that, but like for me, it took me getting at my lowest of lows. Like she dumped me.
Right. Who dumped you? Who dumped you?
She dumped me.
You dumped him?
He dumped me first.
But like,
ain't that how it is?
It didn't matter. Like none of that mattered.
They can dump us, but as soon as we do,
it matters.
And I was at my lowest.
He asked me how I got.
You're right. You're right. I respect that. I respect that.
He had not been dumped until
that.
He had done the dumping.
Not only that, but she went with what she said she was going to do. So
she followed through.
So when you're in a relationship, prior to a marriage and it's one thing to say, okay, you got to work on yourself. You got to get yourself together, blah, blah, blah. But then you can still get those messages, what you doing, blah, 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 blah. But when it's being followed through, no, you need to work on yourself. You're this, you're that, you're you don't have it together. You don't really know what you want.
So
right
mean.
And it's not mean,
no,
but
in hindsight, get it together.
In hindsight, that's what it was.
And were those the why did you? Were those the reasons? Speak to that.
I think I've blocked that out. I forgot all about that.
I was a selfish prick. Let's just call it. That's not a curse word.
So you remember why you were?
Oh, I know why.
I
wasn't all together. I did not.
Part of the selfishness would be Devin would make a decision and there wasn't reflectiveness in it. If I do this, then XYZ is going to happen. So it almost felt like I made this spontaneous decision in the moment, and that's just what I did.
And that's...
I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen.
It's true. That's what
it can be something as small as buying $200 pair of shoes.
Listen.
You know what I mean? But we were going to take care of this and that, and working through some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it took
I feel like I'm at church.
I know.
I feel like I'm at church. Listen.
Speak on it.
My portion. I feel it.
Well, Devin can play the drums.
Because I be like, am I the only
I always like I said, it took that moment, and then and even within those times, I still wasn't perfect. I was still selfish. I was still doing things that wasn't conducive to what she asked of me, of being, fixing myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing, when people tell you to work on yourself, that doesn't necessarily mean bringing others within the process of it. That's a word. You have to really, when it comes to working on yourself, it requires you. You have to really figure out okay, you gotta look in the mirror. What am I doing? She's always telling me, put yourself in my shoes. What would you do if I did this? And then it's kind of you want to try to defend yourself, which your mid 20s, of course, you're going to be well, for some of us, I don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 because and then you try to pick apart sentences that's being said, well, I technically didn't do it. And it's no. What did you do? What would you do if you were in my shoes? And as a young selfish Devin, that wasn't there for me. So it took me just losing everything at that point, from job to, you know what I'm saying, friends, certain things. I had to start from scratch with a lot of things in my life at that time when I won't even say dumped, because we were still talking, but there was no title, there was no interaction of that type of nature. It was just and it was crazy because it was just dag, man,
you didn't think she was gonna do it.
So a Christmas, it was I would be there every Christmas, I wasn't there. Ooh. New Year's, I wasn't. It was just yo, this is trash. So then I really just had to. So it was like, okay, let's start getting things together. But then I also like, you know, like some people like they think that a career or a career goal oriented thing is going to define them.
Yes.
As fixing themselves, and we've seen countless millionaires who get that money or they get that career that they want to get into, and they're still not happy.
Right.
They're still not what they should be. So that, you know, I'm sitting there, you know, all right, well, I'm a rapper. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. But all the time while trying to get that together, like, you still got to deal with other people in your face. You still got to deal with the thing of trying to, you know, please others and whatnot. And I just wasn't there just yet. So even when I was getting to that point or whatever, you know, it like I said, it just took me to really lose it all with her to realize what I had before. Yeah. And we grew up together. Right. Like, after she graduated, we were in college together. Mm-hmm. She had an apartment. I was there probably every day.
I
basically lived there. Like, it was, we grew up together. Like, we played house, but it wasn't house.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it just
sleepovers.
Literally. Like, and the more it is just like, the more I think about it, it's just like I just was not. Even though Devin was ready to be with her, I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Like, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, it's fine. I had to become a better person. And then when we finally linked at one point, you know, we conceived a child. And it was just like, oh, all right, cool. And I'll never forget. It was the Michigan State game. I was working at Starbucks. I left because it was like an 8-hour shift. Smell like coffee, all that mess. I got there to the house.
Now, are you going
I'm
into
describing
the
when I
of the child?
No. Gosh, no.
I'm like, what is happening?
No. I
remember.
I knew he was.
He did.
And then
smelling like coffee.
I went to Victoria's
I got off
Secret.
work. I got to the house. I was already upset because Michigan lost to Michigan State.
It was the down years.
No, this was Denard Robinson because we beat y'all that same year. So I got to the house. She gave me this random hug. So I'm just like, all right, cool. She says, oh, nigga's ass. I'm like, oh, okay. And it was like, oh, we're having a baby. All right.
So boom, you've just fast forwarded. So from your perspective, let's fast forward even more. Well, boom, like all of that happened. Realization, you guys are having a child. I'm assuming, move in together, start figuring out what life is going to look like together as parents. And do you start seeing, Kingston is born, whatever, like however far you want to go. When is it that you start seeing some sort of evolution from like, okay, like we are moving down this path of unselfishness. We are moving down this like carrying this fatherly.
Can I back up real quick?
Sure.
How did you feel about being pregnant? Because I know I was just like this.
I'm confused. I thought we planned it.
I did.
But still, like, you can plan it and still, people plan for years. But when it actually happens,
it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, so, yeah, it was like that.
Okay.
Like a shock.
like, oh.
And I just never.
But you have seen yourself, like, you've pictured a family with Devin.
Did you?
Yeah, but no, not that I didn't. Just it
was just a shock.
Like us, we never had we wanted to have children, but we never had conversations about them.
Yeah, because Devin was always like, it was always this question mark. Because Devin's like, I ain't having no kids. Like he always said that. Yeah,
you did.
Oh yeah, I've always said. I said I was gonna have a crib in Malibu with a dog, bulldog, all that type of stuff. Because I had these things of my father, my biological. I was like, I don't want to be like him, this, that, and the third. And I had fear. Long story short, I had fears of thinking I was going to be like him when this whole entire time, since the age of 5, I had a whole full father that was in my life. So it was like I already had the blueprint on how to be a dad.
Right.
I just never knew. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just question mark because I knew that he had said that before. So the thought never really crossed my mind, but I remember having a friend ask me, and even because my mom was a single mom, like, well, are you prepared to be a single mother? And I'm like, why are you asking me that? Like, that wasn't my first thought with him.
Oh, okay.
But even his mom, like later, like years later, ended up telling us like she didn't know what he was going to do. Like, was he going to be there? Wasn't he? Yeah. So it's just interesting. Everyone kind of went there, but that wasn't my immediate thought. But I just think something's changed that day immediately. I don't know what I expected his reaction to be, but he's just like, all right, let's do this. We having a baby. Right. And I was okay.
I think that's like counter, right? To if everybody thought that way.
Yep.
Even his mama was like, he cared too much about himself to care about the kids.
Because we looking at Devin wallpaper in his dorm room, and every camera picture, like
him.
Yeah, he would get a disposable camera and would
take pictures of himself.
Yeah, you would go pick up the pictures, and it would only be him. For all 27 pictures. Selfies before selfies were.
So like, where?
You can't even see yourself.
They were all face. Like,
yes. They were.
And just silly
What are
pictures.
your thoughts? Like
on his selfies?
On his selfishness. Like,
I don't know.
In navigating that.
Yeah, it was probably like once, like he said, like once we started breaking up, like Devin is going to put himself first and do him. And I'm tired of this. Okay. So deuces. So he had to, we were living separate lives, but running into each other.
All
and
the time.
Yeah, somehow. Things like that. Ooh. Like circles were still.
Yeah, connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Still small.
Dang, Devin, I didn't know that about you.
But here's the thing, like, and I'm not even going to defend that because like I was that person, but I think even once I knew I was having a child, like it wasn't one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm having a kid, so I gotta live for my kid and all this. Mm-hmm. Like, no, it's like, bro, step up. You say you don't want to be like that guy. Mm-hmm. Here's your chance to prove it. Like, so it was an excitement for me more than a fear. But I mean, it was a slight fear. But at that point, it was just more like, dude, I know plenty of guys with kids. The worst is I'm losing sleep. Okay, cool. Like that was literally my thinking, and you know, it couldn't have been far from the truth. But like, I just the fact that I know, just even looking back, like hindsight, like there were moments where I put people first, and it was just more so those who I was close to, or it was more so as like learning lessons for other people. Like I always knew that it could happen. So when it was like, oh, we're having a baby, all right, cool, and everything just clicked. Like it was, I didn't miss a doctor's appointment.
Nope.
I was there, like I was in tears when the water broke. Like I called my old best friend, like, dude, man, I don't know what I'm about to do. Like, what?
We didn't know if my water broke or
all
not.
All I knew was the bed was nasty wet. I was like, ah.
Oh God.
I was like, did she just throw up in the bed or something?
I did throw up. But I wasn't in the bed.
We can table this part of the
all right, yeah.
All I know is
I got cut, so
yeah. All I know is we didn't know yet, but it was literally like it was a date night, and that was literally my last day of actions.
Yeah.
And then it was just like emotions just hit when we got to the doctor. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, they were like, "You guys are staying. You're having a baby," and he was just like, "Whoosh."
Phone, make some calls, like, dog.
Yeah.
It's real. It was real. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just for anybody that's listening that may think they have some form of selfishness, you probably are selfish. But there's just different levels of selfishness. I feel like, and I only know that because now that I'm older. And I'm starting to see certain things within my families, which I have to say plural because I have so many because of how blended my family is. like you really have to at times like find yourself again, because even when I had kids and when we got married, not to speed things up a little bit, like it's not that I felt myself losing that selfishness, but I sometimes felt myself losing myself.
Yes.
And it was just like, wait, like you still like to do that stuff. You still like to do it. Like, so it was always like a fight of like, okay, like I am this family man, but I still kind of
life isn't over.
Yeah, so it just the balance was very difficult for me at one point. Almost kind of like not necessarily a midlife crisis, but more just like oh man, like, well, what am I gonna do? Good
a personal crisis.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But then it's like on the flip, you don't want it to seem like you're not wanting to be there for your family. You're not wanting to be this husband. You're not wanting to be this father.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot that goes in.
When you guys had Kingston, and then you got married. And then you're like, okay, so now we're married with a child. Has my husband truly changed?
I think at the time, and this is like 1000% transparency.
Yeah.
You don't think about any of that in the moment. Like, how old was I? Like 27, something like that. But it's just like, oh my gosh, he proposed to me. We're getting married. Like there was never a thought. And I think that happens with women, period.
Not me.
Oh.
I was crying the entire time down the aisle. Like, Jesus, please let me make sure I'm making the right decision. Like,
I thought she was crying because she loved me.
You just killed all his hopes and dreams.
I was today years old when I learned.
You just broke his heart.
I mean, that too, but like, because essentially I am about to create a life with you. So whatever happens is happening to me.
I think I was in a mode of like, this is what we're supposed to do. Like, we've already gone out of order. You know, that whole thing. Yes, like we've already had Kingston. We're supposed to get married. We've been together forever. Like, this is what's supposed to happen.
And not to
check
cut
mark.
you off.
Yes.
Not to cut her off, but literally a month after we had, when he turned 1, I was already ring shopping. Like, it was already like, because I met your family in Philly, and that sealed the deal for me. Like, all right.
It took Aunt Nanny for you to be like, okay.
Yes. Yes. Like, I mean, it was in my mind, but then it was just like, oh, man. Went to Philly, met her family, so welcoming, blah, blah, blah. Like, man, like her dad was already cool, but then it was like, once I met that family out there, it was like, done. Like,
Okay.
cool.
Although my dad was in denial.
But it's so funny though. Like I never didn't see y'all getting married. I never didn't see you having a kid because, I knew it would happen. But I just never knew. It was like, I know all this is going to happen, but how is it going to go? Right? Like, because I know you, how has it shifted? Because if Devin was the Devin before he had a child, before he was married, if he was the same person, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't. Now, he still, I'm sure, has qualities. You don't lose the qualities. Right? But how has it happened? What has been that transition from your perspective? And what does that look like for somebody else who may have been the only child or have this middle child syndrome or is more self-focused to then transition to becoming a husband, becoming a father, all of that?
I don't know what happened, but I think it was that thing of just like Kingston. He always says like Kingston saved his life type of thing. So I really think Kingston played a really big role in that and just kind of changed that for him. So it was, from my point of view, like effortless. I didn't have to say a lot of things. Sometimes there were things like I say, like, why'd you buy those tennis shoes when we need to do X, Y, Z? And and having some of those growing pains and talking through some of those things, because he can be very like, it's going to be all right. We're going to figure it all out. It's all going to work out. And I'm like, but 1 + 1 still equals 2. So how are we going to get there? So he could sometimes be like, I'm just going to do this and we're just going to figure it out later and we're going. And I'm like, no. So yeah, I just think it was that after Kingston, we really got focused in church. So I think that was definitely
together.
Together.
Yes.
So it was like right after Kingston. So my mother and father-in-law had started a church in like 2006 or 7, something like that.
Yeah. 2008, something like that.
Yeah. So then after, Kingston was born, it was just like mom being like, hey, bring the baby, come to church. And then we just started going regularly. So I think that was helpful, being around other married couples. They tried to have a marriage ministry, some of that stuff. Like we did premarital counseling with a couple in the church. And
That was huge.
Yeah.
For us. I can't speak for everybody, but I know like for us.
I tell everybody to do it because, and it's that thing of one of the things that happened in there that I tell people all the time, even if they're just dating, is like they're going to hit you with issues that you haven't even gotten into yet, so that now you can decide, like going into it, if that arises, y'all have already kind of planned out, what you're going to do and how you would handle that. You've already hashed that out instead of being in the moment and being like, who the heck did I marry? Like, What kind of decision is that?
Because it's easy to handle the logistical things. Oh, well, let's get this house. Well, you can take care of this part. You can take care of that. But then it's like
the curveballs.
The deep stuff where you don't even think, the emotional roller coasters, all that kind of stuff. So,
and I definitely think, like he's been talking about, like therapy has helped because he doesn't always want to talk. So that was always a hard thing for me. Like, I can see that something is wrong with you, but you want to walk around and be mad and you want everyone to know you're mad, but you're not going to tell me why you're mad. Like, I can't help you.
Which is also a slight form of selfishness as well. Yeah. Like, when I think about it, like, no, just say you upset.
Because now I'm going to get on your nerves because then 10 minutes later I'm going to be like, you good? You all right? When I know the answer to that is no.
Yes.
So I definitely think that was like we had to have a lot of conversations about like, I'm not a mind reader. Right. I can't help or change anything if.
And it's selfish of you to think that you can sit in this space with me and present like that.
And like the tension in the air.
Yes. For no reason. For your reason.
For your reason.
Yeah.
Like,
and I gotta play a guessing game.
Yeah.
And that's no fun for anybody. Like, there's nothing worse, especially as a married couple, to go to sleep upset. You don't want that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So even at least if I'm going to go to sleep upset, I'm going to tell you, hey, I'm not happy right now.
Yeah.
And I cannot say, especially in most cases, like, even if I'm not okay, like, it's more like I'll just say, like, I'll be okay. Well, what's wrong? We're going to talk about it right now.
Like, that was it was so different with that type of thing because I'm like, let's talk about it now. Let's get it all on the line. And he's like, no.
Oh, so you're not an advocate for tabling?
I've had to get there.
And that is because
tabling nothing around here,
it's
blood.
Just, I think there's
that was
level.
a very we had to meet in the middle about that one because he's like, no, I don't want to talk about it now when I'm upset because I'm gonna, and I'm like, but we're just gonna drag this out. Let's get it done now.
Because you're a fixer.
Yes, I am. I am
She's
very
much
huge
on conflict resolution. Like she's the GOAT of that.
Like, thanks, pal.
Thanks, pal. All right, we're gonna end this podcast on that note.
So, and knowing that you're a fixer and you're a giver, how do you take care of you? Because I've always wondered that about you. And the reason why is because we spoke about your child with the IEP, and I know that you are heavily invested in your children, in their education. I know at one point you were running your mom's catering business and working full time. And I'm just like, girl.
I think that's part of what made him less selfish too, though. Like he didn't have a choice in that. When my mom got sick and I was just like, hey, I got to pick this up and run with it, he had to become Mr. Mom a little bit. So
okay.
Many Pinterest menus.
Yeah,
because I would be gone like sun up to sundown.
Was it like 16 hours or something you told me?
Yeah, like there were times, I was waking up like at 5 a.m. and leaving and wasn't getting home until like almost midnight because I would like do her business. I'd go to work, then get to work at like 11 or something like that. And then that was a demanding job. And then I would leave there and like go visit her in the hospital or whatever while she was in the hospital. So I've been trying to do better.
Is it hard for you?
It's very hard.
Okay.
Because I think we're opposite in the fact that I can easily feel like I'm being selfish. So it's hard for me to like go on trips with my friends and I'll back out.
I have to kick her out.
I will back out 20 times.
I have to kick her out the crib.
Why?
Like, go.
Because I'm like, this is going on. This is going on. That's going on. Like, I can't go because of this. Like, I'm just going to stay here. And I'm just like in my mind. So I don't call them and back out 20 times.
But mentally.
Yeah. Or I'm telling him, like, I'm not going. I'm just going to, like, this money could go towards that. And here's 20 other million things that I need to do while I could be gone during there. Like, mom guilt is real for me.
Yes. Oh, my.
So they had a Miami trip back in December. So it was her, my sister, a couple other friends. So, I mean, just throwing an elephant in the room. My mother passed on my birthday in 2019. So it was like, oh my God, this is where like if 2010 Devin was around, N-O. But she, my sister and her are so close. Like she's known my sister from like growth, like
12.
Yeah, literally. So they're like, oh, they all been hanging out. You know, I done walked into work and on my lunch break, and they're like having brunch and breakfast in my house. Like, oh, hello, all right, on my lunch break.
Special time.
Yeah. So, anyways, they were like, they just randomly planned a trip to go to Miami. So it was like, oh, were you sure I should go? Blah blah blah. Mind you, I'm in a grieving stage, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, well, my sister is grieving as well. Yeah. So it's like, man, go have fun. Whatever. Do what you got to do. But it was just constantly like, oh, are you sure? You don't get your daggone behind on that plane. Like, go. Like, just go. Like, because to me, it's just like, okay, like, it's a trip. Hey, but you're my wife. Like, go have fun. Like, what I can handle these two boys. Like, I made them too. Like,
yeah,
I'll put in on that.
Right. And I bet though that, like you were saying, like that was really hard for you because I think probably up until that point, it was like that was in the midst of him doing the business for your mom, but it wasn't all of it yet, right? Like it was like you're leaving everything, not only just the kids, but that like everything, and you just are like, I'm going to kick it.
That's how I feel. Like I'm just everything. Like check on my mom, and
the thing with her, like she gives so much to
everybody.
And who's filling your cup?
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so when I have those moments to give her that time, whether it's from others, of course I want it from me though. As far as
trying to
giving,
fill her up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But
y'all are so
but any moment where I can show that appreciation. Yeah. The smallest things, like whether it's like a weekly card or something. She had a thing, it was a program she was doing some keto stuff, and it was just like, all right.
She didn't last long.
But each week that she did it, every Friday, I made it an intention in my mind to get a card of some sort. Like, all right, week 1, we killing it. Let's get to it.
She did. That was really cute.
Week 2,
flowers.
bam, bam, bam.
You must have learned that from her.
I mean, both of 50-50. Yeah.
I mean, just like that, like
yeah.
I just feel
little
like
things.
those little things, yeah.
Like you have to, like, I mean, just in marriage in general, like I've always been the type of person that, you know, I wanted to do things to make her smile.
Yeah.
Like just in general. But now it's at the point where it's like not just to make her smile, but to keep the marriage healthy and alive and more vibrant and just not just going through the motions of a marriage. Like,
and that,
being
bruh, listen,
complacent.
with 2 kids, we can both speak to it.
dog, you already know.
The motions are the easiest thing to go through. Wake up,
Kid there,
dress, hair,
Dog.
dog, this, that, school, pick up, drop off, this, like, the motions are so easy. And sometimes, like, even now, like, this is the only thing that's sometimes the only thing out of the motions for us some weeks is doing a podcast or doing videos together. Like, that's been one of the things that, you know, it is giving some life and giving space for conversation, not only for us to have, but because other people in our family support what we're doing. And, you know, like, they're like, we'll, not that they never did watch that. Like, people have always watched our kids, but she crying. She just got an itch. She don't cry. She's emotionless.
I'm a thug. I don't
You're
cry.
not a cry. I'm a crier.
She's a crier.
She's
a crier.
Oh, drop of a dime cry.
I only cry when I
She's a
see other
crier.
people cry. Kevin doesn't make me cry.
Yeah, I don't make her cry. I could be in tears. She'd be like, bruh, you need to fold those clothes.
You go empty that dishwasher?
Yeah, I don't care about what you got going on.
Stop it.
But I digress. To shift back a little bit, like to your unselfishness, to your pleasing of everyone else. You know, you have. I think it is rare to support someone in the way that you have supported Devin. Or as we transition to this next question, Trek manifest. these two in one, right? There has always been a time where I have thought, and I don't know, we haven't had this conversation, but there's always been a time I thought like, all right, at some point, Devin's not going to be Trek anymore. Like, he's going to have to like hang it up.
He said, I don't know about that.
Early years, I thought that.
Yeah.
Like, if XYZ doesn't happen, probably by XYZ, then he'll be like, okay. And then as life went on, I'm like, nope, this is forever.
But to that,
Lifer.
but honestly, this is props to you. I don't think it could be forever. Have you not given him the space for him to do what, you know, for him to do what he needed to do?
What I had to do, like, when I realized that, like, that's a part of him, a part of the package. Like, he has to go do his music or all hell breaks loose. Like, and he's discombobulated and all that type of thing. So, like, quarantine, lockdown started getting rough. It was rough in the house and that type of thing. And then Soup came through and had bought him all that equipment and stuff so he could record at home. And that was it was definitely Devin's, you know, saving grace. So it's just realizing, like, you have to let, that's a part of him.
Yeah.
And if I couldn't accept that, which I could make that choice, but that means that we wouldn't be together if I wasn't going to accept that.
But that's what so many, I think, people in relationships do, men and women, is to say, like, no, this is about us now. This is about our children. This is about me. Like, you need to focus all that energy. Like, you need to put those childish things aside. And that's something that we hear in church, the church community, all the time.
But on the flip, with that, I, as the person with that, I had to learn how to balance that out. Yes, you have this gift, you have this talent, but you also signed up to be a husband. You also signed up to be a father.
Yeah.
So you have to balance that out. Yes, I was in a with a mix of grief, with a mix of depression. Like, I needed an outlet. I can vent to my wife for days. I can't rap to her for days. So, like...
But that and the therapy suddenly had to stop, and
yeah, so it was just like
used to that, and
all that. So, but as again, like I don't it pisses me off when I see like artists and stuff like that feel like that music is their only thing. Like, dog, I have a whole wife, like an unselfish wife that like literally will stop at the drop of a dime to check on my like livelihood. You think I'm about to just let these bars and stuff like control like what I have right here? Crazy. Like, I'm not. You can figure a way to balance it out. If you can figure a way to find a record deal, you can figure a way to get a show, or figure a way to you can sit your butt down, figure out. I'm trying to cut. You can figure a way to like sit there. Figure out how your child is gonna get their stuff done. Like, it's times I'm like, I don't feel like doing this stuff with my boy.
Yeah.
But guess what? I tell my boy, I speak life to my son every day and tell him he's a genius. So if I'm gonna sit there and speak all that, then I'm gonna sit down with him and we gonna figure out this daggone reading.
Yeah.
We're gonna sit there and figure out these daggone Google slides. Like, okay.
sick
And
of
I'm gonna be
Google
upset about it,
slides.
but I'm gonna get it done. Because
Listen.
it's the balance.
It
like
is.
And then that goes back again, like, to the selfishness. Like, my son Kingston saved my entire life. Changed my whole way of thinking with childhood. It changed my whole thinking with just children in general. Always had a love and an admiration for kids and to inspire and reach people. But it just hits so different when you have your own child. Like, so it's like, okay, cool. Got my own child, bet. We doing all this, X, Y, and Z. I can't just be a rapper 24/7 because I'm just not. Like, I'm a rapper, I'm an educator, I'm a father, I'm a husband, like, I'm a brother, I'm a son, you know what I'm saying? I'm all that. Balance it out. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Or just don't do nothing. Like, it just comes with growth. Like, and then it's a choice. Are you going to do it or you're not? And if you are going to do it, then figure it out.
Now, in your community, in the rapper community, I don't really know.
Hippity hop.
Like, we're very...
I don't really know.
Very undefined, as we say. So
Hippity hop community?
I don't know.
You and your hippity hoppers?
Yeah, them. So, is that a rare mindset to have?
Very rare.
Okay.
Very rare.
So, in that sense, are you speaking life to those people who have that
Absolutely.
type of, who have those obligations as well?
Because it goes back to, people are like, oh, Trek is on like social media every day. Yeah, you're gonna see me with my kid every day.
I think it's influenced others in the hippity hop community.
Totally. Because to me, like, it's like
that's part of your brand now.
It's part of my brand, but then it's hard for me to say a brand when it's my
lifestyle.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, in one sense, from the connotational view, it's like, okay, yeah, that is a brand, but it's also like, dog, this is my 24/7. Like, I wake up, I'm in a class with a bunch of special needs kids who I treat like they're my own. Cool. Then I have my own 2 at home children, you know what I'm saying, who now aren't just my kids. They're also like, they love my music. So now
they both have IEPs.
They both have IEPs. So
Kendrick
it's like
has an IEP? Okay.
So now it's like, it hits a whole lot different. Then I have a wife who's, who has her own goals and aspirations. And I want to push that with the same energy that I do with my music. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just, when it comes to like, I really just I am intentionally separating myself from other artists, because I'm not just giving you what you want to see. I'm not giving you the formula of like, all right, we're only going to post, I'm going to follow you, then I'm going to unfollow you because I want to get all these numbers up. Or I'm going to only post like all this stuff of me in the studio doing X, Y, and Z. No, you're going to see me in the studio and my son's right behind me with a tablet attempting to get on the mic. No, you need to be quiet while I'm recording this verse. Like, you're going to get, because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. That's my life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then my wife, you know what I'm saying? And then, you got me recording. And in the other room, my wife is watching 90 Day Fiance on Hulu. Yes. So it's like, I discovered that my other son's playing the Switch, and I can see everything he's doing because I have the parental controls on my phone. Like, that is my life. Mm-hmm. Period. I am a married man. Happily married man. You know what I'm saying? With 2 kids who raps.
Yeah.
That's it. That's literally my life.
So Shanwtell, what are your goals and aspirations?
Yes.
What are those?
I am figuring that out now, especially because I was with my former employer for 9 years and was laid off in October. So that was earth-shattering. And this is just like a couple of weeks after Mom passed away. So it was just like super gut-wrenching. Like, y'all know this just happened. Did I have to be a part of the 300? So then, like, there's stuff that I like. I'm a crafter. I like to do event planning and that type of stuff. So I'm like, okay, discovering, like, I didn't even know. I've kind of gotten that stuff naturally, like, from my mom. But I didn't even know, like, you go and get certifications for all that and all these different avenues. So, like, I've been exploring that. And then I kind of fell upon, like, thinking back about, like, what I had been doing at work and discovered that human resources world is what interested me. So I started back in school this summer after I don't know how long, but forever.
You weren't supposed to tell anybody, but now, yeah.
I know. I said I wouldn't tell nobody. It was just going to be like, surprise. But
with the degree, like, hey, you got the degree.
Yeah. So yeah, I started back in school to pursue human resources. So
that is good. That shouldn't be a surprise. That's encouragement for others.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. For real.
What's dope about her, she doesn't really she's very good at reading people. Like, in reading like their strengths and then pushing on those strengths even within the weaknesses. So it's like, oh man, you're good at this, blah, blah, blah. And it's more like encouraging those things, even while like subtly telling you your weaknesses and how to get it done.
Yeah. You say I'm a people builder.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So
Shanwtell used to volunteer as our summer conference administrative team
permanent
director.
Really?
I was A-staff for like 12 years.
And she was like, we was like, yo, like, she just got it. You know, she's going to direct these people and encourage them.
Good at it.
And I'm not an encourager. I'm a like, hey, bro, go do this work. You got to go get this done.
I'd be like, Kevin, you need to dial it back.
Yeah, listen, everybody's got a job to do, so go do it.
Oh, that's
ain't nothing else to it but to do it. But no, Shanwtell is definitely an encourager, and I think that
amazing.
Carries over into not only your marriage and to your husband, but to your children. And you know, you spoke to and are open on Instagram and social media about, you know, your children having IEPs and kind of what that looks like. And I think it's very interesting because we live in this world where we're progressing. When I was a kid, like we didn't talk about it at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But we're definitely moving down this road of like being open, that like all kids learn differently. Needs, like they grow differently. They grow at different times, different rates, different.
I had one.
Right. Mm-hmm. But nobody talked about it. Like, you just got held back, and you know, like, we just gonna pretend like you in the right grade that you're supposed to be. Like,
we gonna pretend like you're
gonna pretend like you're not older.
Pull that out and pulled you out of class don't really exist.
Yeah. You're not older than everybody. You're the same age.
You're just taller.
You're just taller.
You're just taller.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's very like admirable because in a world that, and especially in a world of social media where we gotta post perfection,
right?
Like, you're out here saying like, "Yo, this is my life. I don't really care what y'all think about it, but I want to share it with you." Why? That's my big question is why.
Well, I mean, he had to get me there because when I figured out that we were going to have to get him one, it was the mom guilt. Like, what did I do wrong? I should have taken my prenatals every day. Yeah. I should have done I went down all that path because it just started. Yeah, it started with just speech, and that was for both of them. Kingston wasn't talking like you guys had Gavin. There was Reagan around, and he was like, he ain't talking like they talking. So we had started with speech therapy, and that was very expensive at Columbus Speech and Hearing.
It was great though.
It was. But
wait a minute. Wait. You got to pay for that out of pocket?
Before you're in the school system,
he was only 2 because he was 2 and he wasn't speaking. And the
pediatrician didn't
We had a referral for Columbus Speech and Hearing, and it was $95 for a half an hour, and that was with insurance.
I'll put that in nobody's not hearing.
And it was every week.
And bro, speak to that because how many people, how blessed are you to be able to pay that? How many people would just have to take that L and not do it?
Right. But that was because at that time we were still living with my mom. So we had our whole own little apartment in the basement. Yep. So we were able to do things like that. Yep. But then it got to a point we got married, we were moving out on our own, and we was like, we can't keep this up. So we had found that Canal had preschool starting at the age of 3, and that speech would be one of the things that would qualify you. So as they go through and do that initial testing, we're just thinking it's about to be speech. And then they started identifying other things. And I remember walking out of there crying what did I do wrong? How did I mess this up? So really being open and sharing all of that, I think that comes from his background in education and specifically being in special needs. And he has always been a firm believer that every child needs an IEP. Single child. And as you learn about, Kingston has excelled so much that he's getting to the point he's not going to need it. A lot of stuff has fallen off of there. And we're kind of trying to hold on to it.
You want those additional resources that come along with it?
Yeah, and that's what it is. So they took everything for math off last year, but then his intervention specialist and teacher kind of advocated well, do you want to? We need to keep something on here so he can still have that testing to come out and do the test alone and things like that. And he's he really ended up way ahead of a lot of the other kids, even with his reading and all of that. And I got to see some of that stuff firsthand. So yes, being laid off was a blessing in disguise because then I was able to volunteer in the classroom every week. So even you say about pulling the kids out and all that, school is just so different. I don't know how much at his school because I started calling and telling him are they doing this in Columbus City School?
That's where I went. I went to 2-6. I went to Liberty Elementary.
Hey,
really? That's Liberty
Lions.
These first graders were so independent, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around that. So they were hey, you and you, it's your library day. They would go down by themselves. They took themselves to breakfast. They come in the morning and I'm going to work on this, I'm going to work on that. And that was just amazing. So a lot of the work was the teacher has a table back in the back of the classroom and she's pulling back the 4 kids that are on the same level. Or she was pulling back all right, Tanisha's advanced in reading, so I'm going to pull back these 3 kids.
That's how Gavin's school was,
Yeah, so I think some of that takes away that stigma of why are they leaving the classroom? Where are they going?
Why
that
is she
type
taking
of
her
stuff.
test with her?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, everybody.
It's really shaming, honestly.
Yeah,
it is.
It's very.
I remember in high school the special needs, I used to volunteer in that classroom, the developmental needs class. It was back in the corner of the high school with no windows.
What was it called? Didn't they have
Ours was called development. It was the DH classroom.
DH, yep.
Developmental handicap room.
Yep.
And that that's so negative.
It really is.
So shameful.
And then it was because once I started volunteering back there, you didn't realize you would see somebody that you did have classes with.
Hey,
I didn't know you was.
Yeah.
It's
weird. And then you'll go back like, hey, y'all, keep in the class.
I'm like, did y'all know so-and-so was in the... Y'all didn't know?
Now, I will say, at least in public school,
Oh, God.
it still is a mix of that in elementary.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's weird because when I was aware that he was getting it, I was more...
He was excited.
I was geeked.
You're like, we get help.
Yeah.
Not only that, but to me, an IEP is all about accountability on both ends.
What do you mean both ends? For the child and for the
teacher
teacher
and the teacher. So me as the parent, this is what I'm expecting from you to do. Teacher, this is what I'm expecting from you, the parent, to do. So, and that's the thing sometimes that gets misconstrued. Parents are so expecting of the teacher to do all the work. But a lot of it's a 50-50 deal. You know what I'm saying? You got to do just as much in the classroom as you do at home. One of the things that we do in our room, because, I teach in special needs. I'm an instructional assistant in special needs. So, we don't provide homework for our kids. Because it's like, I'm giving you all this stuff from 8:30 to about 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you expect me to also have you do X, Y, and Z at home? Yeah. You're crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then you don't really, from a life skills standpoint, you don't know what's going on at the house. You don't know how much stuff is going on. So it's just like, no, this is what we got to do for you while you're in this room. You're going to get X, Y. You're going to get all this reading. You're going to get all this language arts. You're going to get all this math. You're going to get all this writing. Blah, blah, blah. Bam.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of no homework, period, ever.
None.
Like a canal doesn't do any.
You're at school for 8 hours
either.
a day.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
What do you need to do
even in high
for
school,
home
like
to prove that it's
do your work at school?
What needs to be proven is what I've taught you in the classroom from 8:30 a.m. until 3:30 in the p.m.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be proven. What I've taught you. You're paid to do the teaching. You're paid to do the education. Like, there's a big difference between teaching and educating. When I teach you 1 + 1 is 2, I'm just telling you that's 2. Why? Because it's 1 + 1 is 2. Whereas if I'm educating you on what 1 + 1 = 2 is, well, if I have a cup right here and a cup right here, and I put those two together, how does that equal 2? Oh, that's 2. That's educating. You're teaching for a short term, whereas in educating, you're teaching for the long term. So when you get an IEP, it's all accountability on both ends. This is what, and this is the parent telling you what's needed for that child.
I think that's what a lot of people don't know,
They
though.
fail to
going into the IEP, like the parents really have the say so as far as what goes in there. So if you don't agree, you can say, don't put that in my child's IEP. It may not be the best decision for him, but you can say that. Or you can say, I want to add this goal in here. I want this to be a part of it. Because now we have to answer, teacher has to answer, the intervention specialist and all that. Everybody has to work together to say what they have done and that they've checked for those things to help progress.
Like your child has a team.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That includes your parents.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And then you get people in these IEP meetings who get upset with the teacher, or they want to say what's not happening right. Well, man, what's happening at the crib? What are you doing at home? That's helping with that. Because you added to that list as well. You put this stuff down there as well. So, and I think that's one thing, again, which provided excitement for me was like, cool, not only do we get to hold the teacher accountable,
right,
we get to put our own little mix into it. So we know he has some speech stuff. We know he has structural things, because with him, he'd never been in a classroom before. He'd never been in an environment to where he has to sit down and listen.
Yeah.
Now, there were, some times I was feeling, not discouraged. Like,
that's what I was going to say.
My
How
son
do you guys
can't sit his butt down during reading.
It's hard to hear, like, oh, we have to take, like, in his IEP being like, we take him out the room and he jumps on the trampoline, or he does better when he's in the, I can't even remember what the chair is called.
Oh, no, I was like, man, I'm going to get this belt.
so like, how do you, but like when you hear things like that, how do you not take ownership of the behavior, but understand that this is another milestone that we have to work on.
I still take ownership of it.
You do?
Because it's hard not to, because then it was, so we always did in-home daycare for both boys. So they were with Aunt Carla. So what, Kingston was there from 3 months up until seven. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Until 7 years old. And then Kendrick went there at 11 weeks up until we just switched him last year.
Yep.
So it was like, dang, did we mess up by not having him in a daycare?
How old is
where
Kendrick again? I'm sorry.
He's 5.
He's 5. So he's
Yep.
a year younger than Ava. Okay.
Yep. So it's like, dang, did we mess up?
Older.
We knew what you
Sorry.
meant. I was like, yeah.
I'm like, he's older. Like, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
But yeah, like you start doing that. Like, did we mess up having him like only in a in-home daycare where it's not so like it was,
or whatever.
yeah.
Sure.
So like there were other kids, but for a long time, like especially with Kingston, there was only 2 of them for such a long time, and it was just about like, man, we know we had him with the right person because it's someone that his mom grew up with. Like we knew that he was being treated right and all that. So it's just been like having to tell ourselves like we made the right decision at the right time
and the right decision and the right decision for you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times as parents, we're constantly evaluating the decisions that we're making. Like, are we making the right decision for our kids?
Yeah.
But especially as younger parents and I just younger, like, being a parent in your 20s and early 30s, I mean, you still don't know how to navigate life.
This sounds right.
We still need to do what works for us because we are still trying to figure out life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, even if we do make decisions that in 10 years from now, we're like, yeah, we probably would have, if we had the money, if we this, if we that, maybe we would have made a different decision if we were more comfortable. But like, we're making the decisions that work for us at the time and we're figuring out life as we go. And it's all about the process of figuring it out as we go. And I think there's so much, I think what speaks volumes about the two of you and about your family is that still in 2020, there's so much fear and negativity around like just where kids are at.
Yeah.
You know, we have these expectations when our kids are born. Something tells us that they're going to, like, my kid needs to be speaking by the time he's 4 months or like all these milestones that really, like, I mean, somebody sets them and whatever. They're all there for a purpose, but
to an extent they're arbitrary.
Yes.
Right. And, you know, but we don't think that. Like, we like, what's
something's wrong.
What's the furthest my kid can be at? Is if my kid's not in the 90th percentile of weight and height, like when they're a newborn, you're like, my kid's in the 40th percentile of height.
Oh no!
Like,
what's wrong?
Like
I'm not
all
feeding
of
my
that,
baby.
right? All of that stuff starts so early, and that's just like pounds, right? And then you start about education, and you know, you guys figure it out. Like, all right, we're gonna live with where we're at, and we're gonna work through it, and we're gonna be open about it. The issues that you have, and not issues, but the issues that I have with my kid, the setbacks, the obstacles, whatever it is. You know, issues is a bad word, but the obstacles, whatever it is not the same as yours. It's not the same as
it's not the same as
not
Ava.
the same as Ava.
Who's in the same household as us.
Both of our kids are different. Ava has her speech. She needs speech therapy when Gavin never did.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
well, it was interesting because they both needed speech therapy, but 2 totally different reasons. Like Kingston didn't speak at all, and Kendrick was speaking, but we were like, what? Are you saying? Huh? What language is that? So,
and it's crazy because I think also
it's not
right.
No, it is hilarious.
It's hilarious.
He's probably like serious. Like, you need to.
I know.
But
give me my ravioli right now.
Right. But it's crazy because you brought up something that really just hit me. Like, so many parents compare their kids to other kids.
Can't do that.
Where it's just like now with me, I compare my kids to my friends' kids more so in excitement. Like, oh man, Gavin doing that? Oh, Kingston, wait till you get to do that. Like, oh, he done lost all them teeth. Kingston, you on your way to lose all them teeth.
Yeah.
Like, and Kingston's lost like 2 teeth. But it's not like a comparison
4.
like, oh no, like he's not there
it's a
yet.
Setback.
Right.
Yeah, it's more like, oh man, I can't wait till he gets to that point. Like,
Yeah.
and then
On the flip
That's
side,
great.
I feel like on the opposite side, you have parents that are like, my kid is advanced.
Oh yeah,
right.
My kid did everything first. My kid was
Ah.
walking at 9 months.
Right.
In 2 days.
But isn't like it's just such a that world that parents have to navigate in that sense is so it's kind of bizarre to always have that comparison.
And I think too, though, to that point though, we aren't like I think we're just very humble and modest in general. Mm-hmm. So like when we're sharing things that Gavin or Ava are doing, they're like, that's fantastic. That's amazing. And we're just like, they're just navigating life. Like we're not trying to create any kind of like comparison. We don't believe in that because each child grows and develops at their own stage. And
Right.
I'm not going to be like, oh, well, Gavin is reading whatever. Okay, that's great. Like like I don't believe in that.
You telling me something like, oh, Gavin speaks so well. Like, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like
expecting him to
right. Well, what I'm thinking in the back of my mind is like, man, you're setting yourself up that if you're like, you've already made a mental note. Gavin is this age and he's doing this. You're setting yourself up to that if your kid isn't meeting those expectations by the time that like it does, and that's just not true. Everybody has a different path, and my daughter's path is going to be different than my son's path.
And it takes away from like your actual parenting, like the joys of it.
Yeah.
And documenting it, not even just socially, but just mentally. Like, dang, man, you was 4 when you did this, or you was 5. Like, it takes away from that whole like joy in that aspect. Like, Kingston, you lost your first tooth. Hey, all right, cool. Now that
because somebody else told you it was too late or too
right.
Yeah.
It's trash, man.
I think that's so I want to commend you guys because I think it's amazing that you guys both were on the same page, because oftentimes parents aren't when it comes to like it took a while for my dad to it was my dad or my mom to be like, okay, yes, something is wrong with her. And it wasn't just environmental because I wasn't raised by my biological parents. So on top of those factors, so there was like, oh, let's just work with her at home and see where she gets, so I commend you that you're like,
What do you mean by a while though? Like it was...
Man, I don't know. I think it was like middle school when I first got my IEP.
And that's wow, right?
I think
that's
it was
a lot
like,
of denial.
You're more than halfway through.
More than
I think it was like middle school, honestly.
Think about how much you would have had from the jump.
And then the high school you went to was pretty...
Oh, you were set up.
I was set up to fail.
Yeah.
Like 100%. I mean... I say it all the time. Kevin did my summer readings. Like, I was completely set up to fail.
She had to keep you.
Yeah. It was already with it right there.
Okay, my dude's early.
Because...
Putting in work.
But it was one of those things where they were like, you can do this. We're going to push you to be better. And I'm like...
But had no support to do it. Like, you could have done it.
Well, I had an IEP at that time.
But even then, like, did you have... Like, what was that...
And I will say, in public schooling, it's a lot different with IEP than it is in, a suburban area school.
Yeah.
Because I teach in public schooling, and
it's all public.
It's all public.
It's all public, but even better. Yeah, it's definitely different. The accountability factor on both ends, just the care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think too, like that they have all these additional services, right, for the school, but those teachers are in the school every day, all day, all week. that's the school that they're placed in,
right,
to provide those services.
Yeah.
Where city schools, you have 3 schools,
you have
7 schools,
you have 7 schools.
Not only that, you might not even know those resources are available.
Yeah. So yeah, I commend you guys.
Crazy.
Really, I do.
And I will say, not to cut you off, to her, she, I teach in the schools and all that stuff, but when it comes to home and the schooling, top notch, MVP.
Oh yeah,
number one, top of the line. Got the dad.
I be looking like, man, I wish Tenisha could just.
I'm just telling you,
listen, okay, I did do.
Can I just get some post-it notes on the wall?
And I even looked.
Can I get a whiteboard?
I looked up. Shanwtell, you can help me.
Yes, I got an extra whiteboard.
She's like on it.
But you know, I stay in Dollar Tree too.
On it.
I even YouTube I looked up what a factor is.
A factor.
Because I didn't know.
Because you didn't have an IEP long enough to learn what a
Look, it's a Friday night.
Yeah,
it's a Friday night chilling.
As a grown adult.
As an adult.
Yo, a Friday night chilling. We could be kicking it. She's sitting there with Kingston working on some daggone work. I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, that alone. Like, man.
I mean, that, so, for first grade, so I was in Catholic school. And I remember having so it was trailers. It wasn't even like going to another class, but the school had outgrown. Wow. So I think like the first half of second grade, I had to go to a trailer because we got to first grade and everybody could read already. So like they had all learned in kindergarten and all that, and I didn't. So I spent like the first 6 months doing all of that, and then after that, I did well in school. So my mom never like sat down with me and did homework and any of that type of stuff. I was just always kind of self-managed on that. But it was something that I wish that I kind of had. So I think that's where that comes from. Like,
I was about to say,
I want to sit down and do that with Kingston, but I also know that he needs that, especially seeing now. He'll be like, yep, I did all of it. Like, you just hit the turn in button.
You didn't do nothing.
And it's blank. Like, you did your attendance for the day. And that's about
I am here.
it. Yes. I showed up. Hello.
Listen.
That's it. So.
And that's so funny because before we were teachers,
yes,
yeah.
Before we became teachers, like Gavin did his work at school. They've never had homework,
right?
Ever at Tusing, like they don't have homework. So he went to school, he got educated, he came home, and did, like we talked about before on the podcast, this is just his place to not do schoolwork.
Which he called out.
And the first few weeks or the first 2.5 weeks of school, every day there was like tears at some point because this is not the place where he does schoolwork, right? And he had to I'm like, dude, like we have to do this. Like this is the third week. Like what's different today than every other day? And he's like, this is just my place. Where I don't have to worry about this. And that's because he listened to the podcast and he heard us say that.
He did.
See, I would have been crying
We wrote the assignments down for the
But
day.
that's we had to figure out. All right, what we're doing isn't working for him, and I have to be a whole full-time employee and a whole full-time teacher. Like how do we help him succeed? I think the overall point is just that as parents we're constantly adapting. Adjusting. Not only did you guys make a decision to move forward with getting the resources, because you could have totally made a decision and be like, and many parents do, to be like, no, he gonna be all right.
Well, that, and even when it we were reviewing his IEP, so he was getting ready to turn 5, and we had just assumed like he's going to kindergarten next year. And the preschool teacher was like, I would wait.
Yep.
And then she's like, because think about it, she's like, he'll still be 5 all throughout kindergarten. Like, don't be worried about the age. And like now, like the mentality is like, even with Kendrick, because his birthday's only 2 weeks different, they're like, he's just too young. They're like, those 9 months or whatever are going to make a huge difference. So just like wait it out, like they'll be fine. And I really think it did, because Kingston just like kind of took off in kindergarten, especially first grade. Like I said, like we were
killed it.
Yeah,
killed it.
Yeah, and I think those are decisions that scare parents. You know, like we were faced with the same decision, and for us, it really came down to like, hey, bro, like I ain't paying this additional preschool money no more. You gonna have to figure this out, right?
Look, that was the saddest part. Like, we gotta pay for a sitter for another year, because preschool is only 2.5 hours a day.
And kindergarten.
Yeah, and kindergarten's a half a day in Canal still. So it's like,
hey, let's get these suburbs together. Why is kindergarten a half a day?
I know.
Can my kid go to school for more than 3.5 hours a day, please?
But to those teachers credit for the fact that they can get some work and curriculum done in a half a day.
Right.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Because that's what I was really happy that we waited a year once I went to the kindergarten meeting. So they do the little kindergarten roundup. And when we walked out of there and they told us everything them kids was going to have to do, I was like, what? This ain't the same kindergarten. Like, here's all the books they need to be able to read. They have to be able to count to 100. They have to be able to.
Bruh, listen, third grade, I'm like, he'd be like, so what is Dad, what's the difference between an array and I'm like, hold on real quick. Let me Google what an array is.
Look, Kingston asked about predicates. I'm like, did we ever learn about predicates? What? I don't know. That's a part of the sentence. That? The subject and the predicate.
What is it?
I really don't know how to explain it to you.
Okay, that's fine.
Bro, but I know how to speak, but I don't.
Right.
I can write this thing. I'm just have to tell you to write it like this. Let me tell you what the best thing. They have this thing called Brain Pop Junior, and the school has.
That too.
Yeah.
Yes. Anytime Kingston asks me anything, because you know some things like you just know, but you can't explain it to your kids. I'll be like, let's go to Brain Pop. Dun, 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 dun. Thanks, Moby.
Oh God, yes.
Well, on that note, listen, it really has been fun having you guys here to really go through this whole. I mean, we just went through your whole like life. 37 years of. How old are you guys?
I'm 36.
36. I'm 34.
36 years of life. You 37 in 2 weeks.
On D-Day.
On D-Day.
We just went through a whole 37 years, 34, 30-ish years of life. And I think my biggest takeaway is that, you know, everybody does life different, and we constantly have this expectation as parents, as spouses, as somebody dating, like this is what life is supposed to look like because I see it here or I see it there, and we all have to go through our own experiences. And I think you guys are just a testament to like going through life as it comes and figuring it out and learning from your past and your present and your future, what you want out of it. And I think, you know, I'm just motivated by, you know, how you guys are open, how you are always learning and growing and pushing each other forward and into what you're doing. So I'm glad we're friends. And
let's not get it twisted. Like, we've learned from you guys.
Yes.
On many
the
occasions.
Be having it
you got
together.
married before I did. So it was like, you got married before I did. So it was a motivation for me, like to step up, like dog, like grow up. Like she's not gonna be here for long, brother. Like, so no, please don't take your flowers, y'all. Like y'all are a great couple. Like y'all, a lot of people look up to y'all. Y'all don't realize that, but they really do. So
they
please Take that.
We're just
roll
out
with
here
it.
living life. For real.
And that's all you can do.
And I think that's the biggest thing. That's why we do the podcast, is for a plethora of reasons. But one of them is that, you know, let's pull back the curtain. Let's, you know, pull back the veil. Like, this is not easy. None of it is easy. Like, whatever couple you look up to on Instagram, whatever YouTubers y'all follow, like, they struggle.
It's a whole
it's hard.
They life going on.
They argue. They don't start the dryer. Apparently, like I didn't start the dryer last night.
We wash all the clothes together.
Oh my
and
God.
Some stuff shrinks. Some stuff gets colored on.
Yeah. Listen, it's
I'm like,
hard.
did you start to dry?
You can't fill the washer up that far.
Listen, did you start to dry last night?
Don't bring the patio furniture in. And then it rains.
Listen, keep cutting her off. I don't want to hear it.
Just saying.
Come on, I think I did. How do you think you did? It must have all
I think I did, man. Where the clothes mill do, you got to start over.
Listen, it was my pillowcase. Guess what I had to use last night? A shirt.
The pillowcase.
That's life, but hey.
But that, listen, again, it ain't no highlight reels over here. Like, this is real life, and we just strive to continue to do this with each other. Like, at the end of the day, somebody asked me today, like, hey, what is your goal with YouTube? Like, do you want to become YouTube famous? I was like, I mean, if that happens, like,
if I can get some money,
yeah. If that happens, cool. My goal right now is this is cool for us. It's fun. We get to have conversations. I get to do cool things with my kids. Eventually, like, they're gonna get to look back on this, and that's the coolest part about it for me. So again, same thing with y'all. Like, let's just keep pushing. Let's keep evolving. Let's keep growing together and do that. So
no, my flowers are therapeutic.
her flowers are therapeutic.
My flowers are my plant.
Not her husband. So again, make sure you guys please subscribe. Hit that notification button, hit the like button, leave comments, interact with us, follow us on social media, Kevin and Tenisha, Kevin100, Tenisha.Rigby, Trek Manifest, Shawni Marie. It's all in the episode notes, all the websites, all the music, all the good stuff. Hit us up. Shanwtell, she gonna be an event planner and human resources expert. She already is.
She'll give you tips on how to do your homeschool.
Exactly.
Definitely hit us up. Let's keep that communication flowing. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Bye.